Hi, I'm Dr. Zimmerman with Self Matters.
Hi, I'm Cassandra Linares.
Welcome to another episode of Tuesday Soothe the Soul. And we're so excited to be here with you and to talk about this topic that we came up with and thought would be so interesting given it's the holiday season. Our topic today is holiday stress.
Yeah.
Seems pretty fitting.
It does.
Holidays are upon us, and we thought this would be a very helpful topic since I think it's come up for both of us.
Yeah.
Holiday stress and just this time of year can be so stressful. So how do we navigate that? How do we navigate holiday stress?
It's a good question. I think I'm still trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we have some helpful tips today. Of course, it's not an completely exhaustive list of things that you could do, but there are some helpful tips that you might find interesting or helpful that you could take away and use during the holiday season to help manage some stress. First of all, how do we know we're stressed out? Let's talk about that for a second, because oftentimes I hear people say, I didn't even know I was stressed out.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of, before we know it, we are overflowing and our cup is full and the stress levels are so high that we're just, now what I call is the cup is overflowing. So we don't want to get there. So what does stress look like?
I think it's important to really know yourself. Whether, what are your eating habits? Is that changing? With stress, sometimes anxiety is paired with that. Mm-hmm. So sometimes anxiety makes you overeat or miss out on meals. Mm-hmm. So that's really important. And just, sensing what is going on throughout my body right now. For me, I know that I carry all my stress in my shoulders. And
me too.
I feel like the world is on top of me.
Yes.
So it's kind of a little bit like that. There's this overwhelming feeling, maybe tightness in the chest. Yeah. That's just a little bit of what I think about.
Absolutely. What you're describing is a lot of physiological symptoms.
Yes.
So what you're saying is, first, your body starts to tell you maybe before you even know cognitively what's going on.
Definitely.
Or that we're holding on to the stress. Sometimes it's more of a physiological response.
Right.
Absolutely. Some of the things I've jotted down are dreading, a dread feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm getting ready to enter into this holiday season, but I'm feeling the sense of, just maybe it's the same thing. Mm-hmm. It is the same thing you're talking about, but the physiological.
Right.
But we call it dread sometimes.
Yes.
So if you're noticing yourself dreading something coming up, maybe check in with yourself and kind of see what's going on. Try to see, what am I feeling? What am I holding on to? And what's going on? The other thing I put in here is increased worry, irritability, and like you said, body tension. So that was also something I jotted. But the worry and irritability, we often experience stress as too much on our plates.
Yes.
And that can come out as more worry because our to-do lists are huge during the holidays.
Right.
And when we can't get everything done, we might start feeling irritable, which I think we've all experienced.
Yeah.
For some reason or another. So, again, just monitor yourself, notice your body, notice what's going on. Like you said, are there any changes or things that we're noticing?
Right. And I think for me, during this time, I know that I tend to get a little bit more negative. Mm-hmm. In just the way that I am, with how I approach my days, with how I am managing my time, I feel like I'm probably a little bit more hard on myself. Mm-hmm. So really understanding what thoughts are going through your mind right now, and how can we flip the script, and give yourself some grace, because holidays tend to be filled with a lot of emotions. And it's not always so bad. I think in the moment, sometimes it can be great when you're surrounded with loved ones or have that time, that leisure time for yourself.
Right.
But I also think that there could be a lot of negative feelings there as well.
Absolutely. I think stress can look different for all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And how we carry stress or what brings us stress can look different for all of us. So things that stress you out might not stress me out, or things that stress me out might not stress you out, and you might just be like, Dr. Z, why is that so stressful for you? I don't know, it is.
Right.
So we don't know, but it just goes with we carry different stressors, and our ability to tolerate stressors are very different. So I think we have to recognize, just because somebody may be able to do 10 things,
Yeah.
you know, and we're still stuck on the 3 things that we're not able to get done.
Right.
Or, you know, it could be anything related, but
Yes.
different people experience stress differently.
I agree. And I think that's important to know, because some people may feel like, oh, how can you be so stressed but you're still so proactive?
Right.
Yeah. So it's really important not to compare yourself to others during this time too.
Yes.
Mhm.
Absolutely. That's a huge one. What are some things that stress you out about the holidays?
I knew this question was coming. I was hoping I got to ask you first. Let's see. I think there's a lot of things, and maybe not even to be a Debbie Downer, but for one, I'm a student, so holidays mean finals, and that's just cram season. So that's one thing. Another thing, a little self-disclosure moment, is both of my parents my parents divorced and they remarried, so really balancing my time and meeting both families where they need to be met and making sure that they're both happy with the time that I'm spending with them.
Yes.
So that's a little stressful as well, and I have so many siblings, so providing gifts and balancing my time as well is something that stresses me out, but it's good stress.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot. So those are very reasonable, good, like those are big stressors.
Yeah.
Those are can be very big stressors, and how we navigate through those can really impact, I guess, the outcome of whether the holidays are enjoyable or more stressful,
Right.
which I guess we will get to in a second here. But like you said, you wanted to ask me also. So
yeah,
things
go ahead.
that stress me out during the holidays, I guess the traditions and the expectation of the traditions.
Yeah.
I have 3 kids, and as a mom of 3, I always want to make things fun, the traditions to be fun and memorable for the kids. So I think trying to get all the things in, and when we don't, we feel this sense of, you know, oh, but I didn't do this.
Yeah.
And the kids hear it from somebody else that their family went and did this, or they did that, or they got, you know. So there's a lot of, again, going back to not comparing ourselves, but also there's so many things to get done during the holidays. I think that's also like a race for me.
Yeah.
For me, again, as a mom of 3, I always want to make sure everybody has a good time. Trying to manage everybody's emotions, as you may all have well experienced as well, is very hard. And I think it's very challenging to take on that burden.
Definitely. And like, I may not know exactly how you feel, but I can assure that there's other mothers or, you know, hosts that also feel that way, where they feel like they're responsible for how people feel during the party or like the celebration, the gathering, and like making sure that they're enjoying their time. But I think the fact that that's going through your mind and that's one of your stressors just shows like how great of a mom you are, that you want to set like those memories for your kids. And I think it's so sweet, but I also think it comes with a lot of responsibility and a lot of like just stressful emotions to make sure that everybody's having a good time.
And the other thing I wrote right after that is I can't be the only one to create happy memories. I think we have to give everybody that responsibility of allowing them to create joy for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I can do what I can do, but I think it's everybody's responsibility for creating joy for themselves a little bit during the holidays. So we'll talk about that more as well. But the third thing I have is hosting.
Stressful.
It's just loaded.
Yes, yes.
So as we all know, hosting can be very stressful. We don't need to explain that to you, but stress just, you know, one thing to remember is that it doesn't happen overnight. It builds over time. We know the holidays are coming.
Mm-hmm.
We start seeing it in the stores. We start seeing commercials. We start reading about it on social media.
Mm-hmm.
I think it starts building over time. And not to say just the holidays, but also maybe in our lives, we live stressful lives, jobs, kids' schedules, managing all of that can be stressful anyways. And on top of that, now we're adding the holidays.
Mm.
So let's talk
The
about
cherry
that.
on top.
Cherry for sure.
Yes.
So, yeah. What's your thoughts?
So I guess for me, it's like I love this time of the year, but I also have a lot of negative feelings for it as well. Just because I think there's so many expectations. Going back to the expectations part.
Huge.
Yeah. And just ensuring that, around this time is when it's like the giving season.
Yeah.
And givers, especially if you're a giver, you tend to not know your limits. So,
You're a giver, Cassandra.
I am. I'm too much of a giver for my own good, but it's okay. We're learning.
That's right.
So I think, just like you said again, making sure that your cup is full.
Yeah.
Before you're trying to fill other people's cup. Because around this time, when you're prepping for the holidays, you want to make sure everybody's needs are met and, going beyond what you can. And I'm sure you feel like this as a mother too. It's like making sure all your kids are happy and, they're enjoying the holidays and they have these like core memories to look back on.
Yeah. A lot of pressure.
Mm-hmm.
The expectations and traditions. And because we're adding it on top of our busy lifestyles and schedules, we want to talk about ways we can make it enjoyable.
Yeah.
Because it is a time of coming together with our families, maybe trying to slow down,
Yeah.
which sounds funny because there's so many things happening during the holidays that we can go do, that I want to try to figure out what we can do to make it more enjoyable. Let's just talk about the nature of stress first, because stress can have a very similar physiological response in our body that anxiety does.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So when we start feeling stressed out, cortisol begins to be dumped in our system.
Right.
The more our body detects cortisol, our body thinks we need it more. So it says, oh, you need more cortisol. Here you go.
It's overproducing.
Overproducing. So
Yes.
we have this stress response cycle because our body thinks we need it to function. But what it's really doing is, in a way, it's our body's way of telling us we might be stressed out.
Mm-hmm.
Our body has defense mechanisms put into place. So maybe trying to tune into some of those stressors. If you're feeling cortisol, stressed out, your body's aching, cortisol does begin to deposit in our muscles.
Yeah.
So that's a good indicator. Stress might just be a way for your body to say, hey, kind of slow down maybe a little bit and pay attention to what you may need to kind of buffer that stress.
Definitely. And I think it's important to mention too, like it tends to be stored into your muscles because when I'm stressed, I definitely feel it
just
right
said that.
up here. Yeah. And it's almost like it's just very uncomfortable.
That's true.
Yeah.
It is. It's just those knots, you know,
Mhm.
they just seem deeper and bigger and
Yes.
more painful.
Yes. As the days go on.
Absolutely. So what are some things you do? And we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Maybe we can talk about things we do to manage stress or in research and our research and practice that we've noticed that help manage stress, so that maybe those things would be helpful for you.
So I'm really big on journaling.
I love it.
Yes, and I think one of the main reasons I'm huge on that is because I tend to have a difficult time being vulnerable with others. So it's easier for me to jot it down on paper and I know that all is well. You know, I don't have to worry about how the other person will receive this information or if there's going to be a change of judgment in any way. So journaling is a really huge one for me. And then also exercising, taking some time, whether it's yoga, making sure I'm meditating, and trying to focus on like one good thing that happened. Because it could have been a really bad day, but one good thing, whether that's if I had a yummy breakfast or was able to just take 10 minutes for myself, that's something that I like time to focus on.
Love that. Just journaling in itself has so many benefits. When you write it down, you're cognitively processing the act of conceptualizing your thoughts, putting them on a piece of paper,
Yeah.
and then you reread it, and now you're visually processing it at a different level. So it has so many different levels of reprocessing that same information that I think the benefits, and plus the writing of it, you know, you're just writing it or typing it, whatever you may be doing, the conceptualizing of it is a very good tool.
I agree. I think it's a really nice, especially for people that tend to overthink, it's nice to help lessen the rumination and kind of release yourself from those thoughts.
Yeah.
So
it goes right in line with list making too, which I love.
Yes.
So another thing, I guess, for the holidays is list making. You know, that's great. And I love the exercise piece. It really is getting rid of cortisol physiologically. So now cognitively, you're taking care of your mind, your thoughts, the worries. But physiologically, you're getting rid of that cortisol that's building up.
Yeah.
And reversing the effects that your body's thinking it needs to produce more cortisol. So I think it has so many benefits to do all of those things.
I agree with you. What are some things you do?
One of the things that I have found is taking a break. So taking a break to buffer the stress, whether you're at a holiday dinner, if you're with family, can you take a break to buffer some of that stress? You know, just maybe go to a different room, do some deep breathing, do some mindfulness, do some meditation. Even if we're there, we don't have to be there all the time. So if you need to take a break, take a break. I even take a break from holiday planning sometimes. Like, you know, it's just a lot. So having days or hours where you're not thinking about it, you compartmentalize it, you're not actively saying, okay, what's the next thing I have to do, gives us a huge mental break from even having to think about,
I agree,
constantly thinking about it. Self-care, again, for me is also exercise. I love to either take walks or anything that gets my heart rate up. That way I'm getting rid of cortisol. And when I feel better physiologically, my brain constantly then picks up on those signals and it feels better naturally. You think our brain just picks up on, oh, my body's not tensed, stressed out. So I think everything's okay.
Yeah, it like kind of lets you release all the negativity and like brings down those red flags, and it's just like, all right, keep going, it's okay.
Yeah. I love to use positive affirmations too, is one thing. So one of the things that I started doing in the house, which I needed more of, and I think everybody needs more of sometimes in my household. I have this dry erase board that I started writing a motivational quote on, or a positive message of the day.
Yeah.
And if I feel like we needed to stick with that message a little bit longer, I kept it for the week.
I love that.
So it's funny because the kids will walk by and they'll read it. It's a dry erase board, it says something on it, and they're like, huh. So even if they're not really tuning into it, I know it's beneficial for me, but I know everybody's reading it throughout the house.
Oh yeah.
And the more time everybody reads it, it's positive affirmations like 3 or 4 times a day.
I love that. Do your kids ever ask you about it?
Absolutely. And I love it if they ask me about it, because I will give them a full explanation, whether they wanted it or not, about why I put it up there, the significance for me for this week, or for us as a family for this week, or that whatever time frame I leave it up there. But it's the fact that they're reading it and asking me about it, they wouldn't have thought about it otherwise. So maybe just those little messages filtered throughout the day or house can help you kind of remind yourself.
I think so too, and I think also the fact that they're asking you about it creates, or like at least is a sign for you to know that they are processing it.
Yes. Another last one I'll say is disconnecting from electronics for a bit.
Yes, I struggle, but that is a really good one.
I know. It is a hard one, but I do believe taking time away from social media, watching the things, again, comparison.
Yeah.
Maybe the stress of what everybody's doing, things that are out there. Sometimes we just need to unplug from all of that. Give our eyes a break, give our brains a break from the extra stimulus, and maybe even turn on some meditation apps or something, you know, that just quiet our minds for just a little bit. So those are all helpful things.
I know we talk a lot about family and splitting time and how that can be stressful, but it's also important to know that there's people out there that maybe might not have people to go to during this time. And I think also to highlight that engaging in self-care activities to help yourself feel loved, and you know, to bring yourself that company that you may need by fulfilling your own cup. I think that's important to do to help lessen like the feelings of sadness, irritability, loneliness as well.
I think you bring up a great point. in session we talk a lot about with individuals that have lost someone, that are grieving the loss of a family member, a pet, and this is their first holiday without them.
Mm-hmm.
We just want to bring to your attention that these techniques and skills are still very helpful for you, but also maybe surround yourself with something or somebody that you can be with, whether it's an organization, friend group, church group, any group or anything that you might get involved in. But also just self-compassion during this time. Have some time to reflect and self-compassion for your what you're going through right now, which is very hard, and giving yourself permission to grieve also.
I agree. I echo everything you said.
Well, we hope this has been helpful for you. We've enjoyed doing this episode because it's helped us focus.
Yes.
Rethink of how we're going to approach the holidays also. And hopefully we can all decrease some stress during the holidays and use some of these techniques that we've talked about today. Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah, thank you.